that goes. But I want to read something here in the beginning of our study tonight that gives us an idea of what we're going to be going through in this chapter. It's called Coming Up. In the previous chapter, we took a close look at the event in the Garden of Eden that changed forever humanity's relation to a holy God. The original sin was more than a one-time happening, however. Adam and Eve were evicted from the garden and kept out by a flaming sword. Deprived of the presence of God, they became depraved. Not only were they sinners by their actions, they became sinners by nature. Without hope, they needed a Savior. The promise came quickly. The Lord God said to the serpent, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers, and he will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." Genesis 3:14 and 15. This early promise of redemption was fulfilled in Christ, as we will see in this chapter, and as we will see later on in the book. Christ came not only to set right the wrong done in the garden, but to restore completely the relationship humanity had with God. By living Christ-like lives, that is, lives of holiness, we share once again in the beautiful plan of fellowship, or fellowship God designed for us. And isn't that what he designed? I mean, isn't that what God wanted? He walked in the cool of the day, the garden, Scripture says, with Adam and Eve. He desired to have fellowship. We were nothing like any other of his creation. It was Adam and Eve that he fellowshiped with. And when that fellowship was broken, it broke God's heart. He most desirably wanted to have fellowship with mankind. And so here we are in the garden, and everything's a mess. And God came, of course, and gave the plan to restore us back into that fellowship with him. And aren't we thankful for that tonight? Thankful that God did not just, somewhere in the Old Testament, I don't remember exactly where it is, but somewhere in the Old Testament, it says that, that God was sorry that he even created us. That's sad to be in that position in a relationship with God. We're going to be in the book of Hebrews tonight. You can find that here. We'll get into the scripture a little later in the study. But Hebrews chapter 10 is where we're going to be for tonight's study. The title for the study tonight is "Practice Doesn't Always Make Perfect." And the storyteller was talking about, his mama always told him about practicing the piano. Practice and you'll get perfect at it. Well, it doesn't always work, does it? I mean, he said that Gene and Darlene and those who play the piano, that you got to have some good fingers. They got to work. And I guess he couldn't do it very well. And so his practice never got to make him perfect. In fact, from what I read in the story, he didn't even continue to play the piano. But anyhow, we're going to hopefully get to understand tonight about the sacrifice that God made was not only to save us, but it was also to restore us into that relationship that was so missing in the sin that happened in the garden. Let me ask you this question in the beginning here. Do you think it is possible for someone to practice his or her religion so vigorously and still feel empty? For us to do everything in our religion and yet feel empty.
Yeah.
Yes? Why?
You could practice the religion, but to have an intimate relationship is a whole different story.
Okay. Anybody else have a thought on that? Maybe a different thought? So you all agree that sometimes you can do everything that is required of us and yet have something missing? Let me read a story here that is in the lesson book. And this is central to our discussion of a hunger for God. And when I say a hunger for God, I'm not referring to the book. Okay? When we're talking about a hunger for God in this discussion, it's our hunger for God. Okay? And so this is central to our discussion of a hunger for God, and that is the fact that sin, church, is deadly. Sin is deadly. Okay? It says this, and it says, this true story was shared by a family who visited Niagara Falls in the spring. They saw huge chunks of ice flowing swiftly toward the falls. Many ice blocks had frozen fish embedded in them. Gulls rode down the river on the ice, eating the fish. At the brink of the falls, each gull would spread its wings and lift off. One gull was so engrossed in the carcass of a fish, it delayed too long. Its claws had frozen to the ice. Though it struggled furiously and even lifted the ice from the water, the weight proved too great. It plunged into the abyss. It plunged into the abyss. You see, folks, at the core of our hunger for God is the question regarding sin. What can be done about it? What can be done about sin? If it's so engulfing, we talked last time about it, it can be fun even. And how it can lead us down a road, however, that isn't so fun. But is it just something that we have to live with? Is it something that we can't get victory over? But what can be done about sin? Well, when reflecting on life and looking at the story that we're going to look at tonight, the ancients, the Hebrews and all them, they were reminded of their sins by an annual sacrifice. It talks about in the book here. In fact, practice makes perfect, then the ancient Hebrews should have arrived. They had practiced their religion with great diligence. However, they learned that it takes more than continued repetition to bring happiness and release from guilt. In Hebrews 1 through 4 is a tough passage for most of us. We have no quarrels with the words. It is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. And so the sacrifices that they did, even though it gave them a moment of satisfaction, it didn't take away sin. It had to be repeated. And so their annual sacrifices were a reminder of sin in their lives. In today's life, in today's world, what is it that reminds people of their sin? What reminds people of sin today? I'll give you a couple. How about problems resulting from poor choices? When you make a poor choice in life, it comes back at you sometimes, doesn't it? It reminds you. And a lot of times those are choices that are sinful. Like I said last week, you hit yourself in the head. Why did I do that? That's not me. That's not who I thought I was. But boom, here you are. You're in the middle of that. Another one is about guilt for wrongdoing. Guilt doesn't leave. And think about this. Every time they've done an annual offering or however cycle they were on in their offering, it was a reminder, boy, did I mess up. Okay? What's some other things that can be a reminder for people today of their sin?
A lot of things you do that's harmful to your body.
Okay.
You pay for it later on down the road.
Yeah. And it may not affect you right now, but down the road, cancers or whatever can be a result of things we've done in our lives. How about this? Now think about this. Lifestyle and examples of believers can be a reminder to a sinner of their sin. They see your vehicle go out the driveway every Sunday morning and Sunday evening and Wednesday evening, and on those special occasions, they notice that every time your kids play ball. The ball team's got a game on Wednesday or on Sunday, and you say, "No, my kid's not going to be there this week. We'll be in church." That can be a reminder to people of the sin in their lives. How do they react to those reminders? Today it's almost like they don't care. I've seen, you hear about the churches being burned. You hear about, in Nigeria, I think it is, all the Christians being slaughtered. It's like they don't have a fear of God at all. But for a lot of people, or I would say the majority of people, I think they react by anger, embarrassment, guilt, shame. Amen. All these things that are that happen to us because of sin in our lives. Some people, I think, become so busy with other things to get their mind off of their problem. And so they react by being busy all the time. And though the word ritual is often used in a negative sense in the church, Paul says there's some rituals that are good. Okay, they're good, but sometimes they can be they become negative. But the bottom line, a ritual simply means a customary repeated act. A customary repeated act. What are some customary repeated acts that we do each week in worship? Grab a bulletin if you're not sure. Mike, you get up here every week. You don't have a bulletin showing you what to do, but you know the order and everything, don't you? Huh?
Once in a while I forget.
Once in a while you forget. But it's a ritual. Come on. Tell me what we do every Sunday morning, from the opening service to the close of it.
Prayer request,
Prayer request,
sing songs,
sing songs,
responsive reading,
responsive readings,
take an offering,
offering, special. And we repeat these things over and over and over. Now, let's do it in order. Okay, we have opening, welcoming, a responsive reading, a special song for the congregation, worship song with the chorus, and then another song, and then we go to prayer, and then we go another song. Where's offering at? I guess I am. Okay. I need my bulletin now, I guess. But anyhow, we could almost do it without an order of service. Amen?
Main prayer and then the offering.
There you go. But these things, really, the only thing that differs from our worship compared to the ancient worship of the Jews, well, let me ask, what do you think is what differs between our worship and the Jewish worship, you think? What was that, Gene?
Oh, I said, we don't kill goats and.
Exactly right on. Exactly right on. That's the only big difference in our worships. They sang songs. They had scripture reading. They had sermons. They had offerings. They had maybe specials. I don't know. But the most obvious difference is that we do not sacrifice animals. But the hymns, the prayers, the sermons are all part of Jewish worship practices that we have survived in our Christian worship. So the question then becomes, how do we keep our rituals from becoming routines that seem meaningless? And this is an important question. We really need to look at this question. How can we take routine things that are important? Amen? Each one of these things that we talked about are important in worship. How can we not make them meaningless?
Keeping God's purpose.
Okay? And how do we do that? I've always gotten the most enjoyment out of anything when I've been involved in it. Bowling. I used to watch the PGA on TV back when I was little. You remember on Sundays they had their PGA bowling. I used to like watching that. But you know what? I enjoyed it a whole lot more going out there and bowling, doing it. Baseball can get boring watching it, but I really enjoyed playing it. You hear what I'm saying? How can we make worship meaningful? Being involved in it. Being involved in it. Singing the worship songs. The songs is not for my enjoyment. The song is for the Lord.
Amen.
The song is for the Lord. And if that song is lifting God up and giving Him praise or bringing out the facts of who He is in our lives, we need to participate in it. And anything else, we've talked a little bit about this. I can remember 20 years ago in our church in Vienna that we were just members of at that time, when somebody was asked to lead prayer. They started it out, but about 2 seconds into that prayer, you couldn't even hardly hear them. And there's just something special about it. Participating, raising our hands. I don't know, maybe, that may not be, preacher, you don't understand. That's not me. I don't worship that way. Well, participate in how you do worship. Worship the way that God has instructed you to worship. It keeps it from becoming meaningless in our lives. So real guilt, it demands a remedy. When you're talking about sin, it demands a remedy in our lives. And as we will see, the ancient sacrifices were inadequate. They were inadequate. They were not a remedy for human sin. Follow along, if you will, tonight in the scripture. I'm going to read the first section here, probably the second section. But follow along with me either on the screen or in your Bible. The law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming, not the realities themselves. For this reason, it can never, by the same sacrifices repeated endlessly year after year, make perfect those who draw near to worship. Otherwise, they would have stopped being offered. For the worshipers would have been cleansed once for all and would no longer have felt guilty for their sins. But those sacrifices are an annual reminder of sins. It is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. It is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sin. When you think of blood sacrifices, what comes to mind? Come on, when you see those commercials, those poor little animals on the screen, what comes to mind? I mean, picture a lamb being slaughtered. What comes to mind?
Pain for the animals.
An innocent animal happened to be sacrificed
For me.
for you. Right? Let's look at this passage again to see which word or phrase most clearly communicates the inadequacy and hopelessness of the sacrificial system. First of all, there in verse 1, it says the law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming, not the realities themselves. For this reason, the law, okay? For this reason, it can never, by the same sacrifices, repeated endlessly. Repeated endlessly is a phrase that most clearly communicates the inadequacy of sacrifice offerings that they had. Repeated. If it's got to be repeated, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. My wife, she's inherited something from her mom. that, to be quite honest with you, sometimes drives me a little crazy. And that's her cleanliness. Okay. Why does she have to repeat it? Because it gets dirty again. It gets messed up again, right? Wouldn't it be nice to clean your house one time or your clothes one time and never have to repeat washing your clothes again or cleaning the house again? Come on now.
Amen.
Get with me. Amen? That's the same thing that was happening with these ancient, they repeated endlessly, year after year, make perfect those who draw near to worship. And then in verse 2, otherwise they would have not stopped being offered. Otherwise they would not have stopped being offered. For the worshipers would have been cleansed once for all and should no longer have felt what? Guilty. If it worked, and it didn't because it had to, we're seeing here it's inadequately and it's hopelessness, and it's repeated over and over. Why? Because I become guilty again. I've committed a sin again, and it didn't keep me from committing sins again. Okay, and then verse 3 says, but those sacrifices are an annual reminder. We're going back to what I said earlier. They weren't only a sacrifice to salvation for them, okay? But they also was an annual reminder of every year you had to be reminded of the sins that you committed during that year. Okay? They were an annual reminder of the sins. And in verse 4, it is what? Impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. It is impossible. All these things communicate to you and me tonight of the inadequacy and the hopelessness of the sacrificial system that was done in the ancient times. Verse 5. Therefore, I like that, therefore. What is it there for? It's there for a reason. It's there to tell us something important. Therefore, when Christ came into the world, he said, okay, sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but a body you prepared for me. With burnt offerings and sin offerings you were not pleased. Then I said, here I am. It is written about me in the scroll. I have come to do your will, my God. First he said, sacrifices and offerings, burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not desire, nor were you pleased with them, though they were offered in accordance with the law. Important to understand. Important to understand. They were doing what the law told them to do. This is how they atoned for their sin. Okay? But Jesus said, sacrifices and offerings, burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not desire, nor were you pleased with them. Okay? Verse 9. Then he said, here I am. Don't you love that? I am. I am who I am. Here I am. I have come to do your will. Remember Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane? Father, if this cup could pass from me, yet not my will, but thy will be done. Here I am. I have come to do your will. He sets aside the first to establish the second. What's he setting aside? The law. Why? To establish something new. Right? You got that? Set aside the law. You didn't want it. You're not happy with it. It wasn't satisfying you. I'm setting it aside. Why? Because He's come to do the Father's will. And by that will, we have been made holy through the sacrifice of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. And according to these verses, 5 through 10, what did Jesus say that was different from the prophets, what the prophets had said about sacrifices? That they weren't no good, right? Basically, that they weren't doing the job. You weren't satisfied with it. You weren't happy with it. The prophets said this is what we got to do to fulfill the law, and they were fulfilling the law, but it wasn't working. Remember in Scripture, I think it's, I forget which book it's in, but it says, that there's coming a day when He's going to write the law on our hearts and on our minds. Okay? What's different from that than on tablets of stone? Because it becomes our desire to serve and to do that. It's something that is in me now, not something outside me. Okay? And so the significance is there that there's a difference between what Christ said and what the prophets said in that very fact. And are we to understand these words to say that prior to Christ, no one was ready and able to do God's will? Prior to Jesus coming, throughout Adam and Eve's sin to the time of Christ's coming, are we saying that no one was ready and able to do God's will? That's probably not the right way to put it, is it? Even in the Old Testament, we had a lot of prophets and people who wanted to do God's will. Amen? And so maybe a better way of putting that is because it would be very unfair to a host of devout followers of God back then to say it that way. Ready, yes, but not able. They could not become the sacrifice that Jesus did. I'm sure there were some that would have done it, but it would have done no good. It would not have fulfilled the promise of salvation. And in fact, they would have been like the first Adam and fell. And so I think ready but not able would be a more accurate way of saying it, because only Jesus was fully able to meet the demands of God's love and His justice. We forget about justice when we talk about God a lot of times. We love to talk about the love of God. We don't like hearing about He's a just God as well, because that can have negative implications for a lot of people. And He was the only one, Jesus was the only one that could meet God's demands for love, justice, and also holiness in relation to humanity's sin. Someone read verses 11 through 18 for us tonight. Either from the screen or your version. Remember what I said about participation in worship?
And every priest stands ministering daily and offering repeatedly the same sacrifices which can never take away sins. But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down at the right hand of God, from the time waiting till he is enemies are made his footstool. For by one offering he has perfected forever those who are being sanctified. But the Holy Spirit also witnesses to us, for after he had said before, "This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, says the Lord. I will put my laws into their hearts and in their minds, and I will write them." And then he adds, "Their sins and their lawless deeds I will remember no more." Now where there is remission of these, there is no longer an offering for sin.
Okay, thank you, Chrissy. Jeremiah. That was Jeremiah 10:16. Jeremiah 10:16 is the one that said, their sins and lawlessness, or no, where is it? There it is, 16. I will put my laws in their hearts and I will write them on their minds. That was Jeremiah had said that. A lot of good in this passage. Day after day, every priest stands and performs his religious duties. And the writer talked about that. Can you imagine the priest having to go into the Holy of Holies and make the sacrifice year after year after year, and the leftovers are still on the altar from last year's sacrifice? And he comes in and he sees that and he's reminded, here we are. What good is this going to do? I don't know. I don't know what was in his mind. Here we go again. I did this last year. I did it 10 years ago. Now I'm doing it here. Over and over. I mean, can you imagine? It almost would have to just become meaningless to them in a sense. Because it would break your heart, I would think. As a pastor, it breaks my heart to see individuals start missing and then are gone. It's hard. But it happens over and over and over again so many times. You've seen it. But they're performing their religious duties, and it just becomes, well, I guess a religious duty. Anyhow, let me move on. What is the best news verses 11-18 have to offer? What is the best news verses 11-18 had to offer? Look at them real quick in your. What is the best news you hear in those verses? Not what I just pointed out about the priest having to do daily and offering repeatedly sacrifices. But what are some good news in there?
That you remember our sins and iniquities.
Amen. Isn't that good news? Isn't that good news? What else? By one offering, not a repeated offering, but by one offering, verse 14, he has perfected forever those who are being sanctified. And it's for everyone, not just a Jew, but for everyone. And it is complete. And it's something that is forever. It doesn't have to be redone. He doesn't have to come again and go on the cross again. In what ways does that directly affect us in this good news? How does that affect you and me? I mean, this is the good news in that now we can be free from the guilt as well as sin. I am sure they felt good after a sacrifice. But their sin repeated because they had to do it again the following time or the next day or whatever, however the offering was done. But you and I, the scripture is saying that Christ done it once for all, and that we can be free of not just the guilt, but of the sin as well. Why do I get that out of that? Because we don't have to repeat it. We can actually be holy, not just considered holy in some kind of divine accounting system of you do this, this, and this, and this, and you're going to be all right with God. No, you do this, and God's going to write this on your heart and on your mind, and you're going to follow His directions. It's only by the Holy Spirit is the one that's doing the writings in us. He's the one that's in our hearts and our mind that we become like Christ. The scripture says we are to have the what? The mind of Christ. Isn't that where sin starts in the saved and the sanctified? It doesn't start in the heart. It starts in the mind. Adam and Eve, where did it start? It started in the mind. The eye saw and it went to the mind, and the mind said, wow, I can be like God. And it started dwelling on that and dwelling on that. And all of a sudden they take the next step, and it's sin. The temptation coming in our mind isn't the problem. It's the acting on the temptation. Everybody is tempted. Jesus was tempted in the same way that you and I are, but yet He was without sin. We've got to get a hold of the thought. Take every thought captive, the scripture says. We've got to grab that. I was sitting in the doctor's office yesterday for a follow-up visit for my appointment for prostate cancer. And it's a PA and wasn't my urologist. And somebody had messed up. They made out a new consult instead of a follow-up consult. So this person was thinking I was coming in as a new patient, not a follow-up patient. And whoever ordered my blood work, didn't order a PSA test. And I don't know why they ordered all the other blood work, because I just had all the other blood work done back in March with my regular doctor's appointment. All I needed was my PSA level checked again. And she's telling me this, and all of a sudden she gets a phone call, and she answers the phone, and she's on the phone for about 5 minutes. And I'm thinking, how rude. But at that moment, I said, Lord, help me to be Christ-like in what's going on here. I don't want what's going on for me to act negatively to this individual. And finally she got off the phone, and I found out what was going on, and I said, well, is there any possible way we can go ahead and do the PSA test? Well, my blood, what they didn't, I had to go back down and draw more blood. And I said, well, I'd rather do that than go home and not have to worry about what my PSA level was. And I said, you can call me, and God help me. Because that could be frustrating. I mean, that was the only reason I really went there, to find out what my PSA level was. And it was good. It was 0.01, and that's almost negative. It was good. It was actually down further than it was back in February when my regular doctor checked it. But anyhow, the bottom line is, you and I, the good news can be written on our hearts and in our minds. And the Holy Spirit can help us in times if we just take the time, as Chrissy said, to ask him to lead us. He wouldn't have wanted me to get all upset and hot and bothered. Why'd you do that? No. We can actually be what God wants us to be without doing some kind of accounting system. You and I, we must recognize that our effects are completely inadequate to forgive sin and remove guilt. No system. We can't do it. The only way that that can be done is only through Christ Jesus himself. He is the remedy that is needed for you and me to have sin and guilt removed from our lives. The author says this, and we're going to close up. Our holiness is completely dependent on the obedience of Jesus Christ, the God-man. As the NASB puts it in Hebrews 10:10, we have been sanctified through, now I want you to listen to this. We have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. Which of the following three sentences I'm going to describe to you here is really saying what the author is saying here, bringing it down to our level? He says, once again, our holiness is completely dependent upon the obedience of Jesus Christ, the God-man. In NASB, New American Standard Bible, it puts it this way. We have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once and for all. Which one of these statements best describe what he just said? Obedience, our obedience is unnecessary because Christ was obedient, should be, to God's will. That don't sound right, does it? We still have to be obedient, right? What about our obedience, Christ's obedience was made or has made forgiveness of sins and the filling with the Holy Spirit available to us as we receive him. That sounds like that's more to what he's saying. We have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Christ Jesus once for all. I don't think anyone would say this one. Since Christ's sacrifice was once for all, once we've been forgiven, it doesn't matter how we live. Now, I think that second statement best describes it, that Christ's obedience has made forgiveness of sins and the filling with the Holy Spirit available to us as we receive him. So, since Christ, verse 14, for by one sacrifice he was made perfect forever. Statement. Okay, you got that statement. By the one sacrifice, Christ died on the cross, by that sacrifice, he has made perfect forever those who are being made holy. How can we reconcile those two phrases? For by one sacrifice he has made perfect forever those who are being made holy. How can you be made perfect forever, but at the same time for those who are being made holy? You hear what you see what I'm saying? Are you getting it? For by one sacrifice he has made perfect forever those who are being made holy. How can I be perfect if I'm still being made holy? Do you see it now? You see where I'm getting at? I'm going to give you an answer to it, but do you understand what I'm saying? How can I be made perfect? To be perfect, I'm Christ-like, right? I've arrived, not in that sense, but I'm right where God wants me to, but yet I'm still being made holy.
Being made holy rest of your life to me.
It proves the fact, or it brings out the fact that there are two significant ideas. Sanctification both begins in that moment, but it also involves a lifetime of growth. I am never done being what God wants me to be. I should always be asking, when I read scriptures or devotion or study like this or whatever, listen to a sermon, I should always be seeking out what it is that God wants me to get from that. What is it, Lord, that you want from me? And being obedient to it. Can I be honest with you tonight? And I'm not. I get concerned about altar never being hardly ever used. Honesty gets me in trouble sometimes, Gene. Being honest gets me in trouble sometimes. But I have made some altar calls that I thought 90% of the congregation should have been at the altar. It had nothing to do with being saved. It had nothing to do with being sanctified. One of them, I think, was being witnesses out here in the world. And please don't, I'm not coming down on you to be, it concerns me. I want you to feel free to use the altar. It's a meeting place with God that I think is someplace special. If not, let's take it out of the church. A lot of people have taken it out of their congregations, out of their churches. I've been to a lot of churches that don't have an altar, and that's sad. It's sad. For by one sacrifice, for what he did on the cross, not only is it a instant of salvation, but it was also an instant of entire sanctification, but also that I continue to grow, as we showed in the membership class, the growth that it never stops. Or it should never. It should never. The question is, what do you find helpful about sanctification being both a moment in time and a lifetime of growth? Let me tell you what I find about it. That I still have room for repentance. When God reveals something to me, I can still say, Lord, forgive me. I've not arrived. It might be an attitude. It keeps me from being put on a pedestal, or any of you being put on a pedestal, or us putting ourselves on a pedestal. Why? Because he's not done with us. Okay? And so it's not only in a moment, but it's a time of growth. The writer also says this. The writer of Hebrews indicates some folks have been tempted to return to the tradition, rituals, and the familiarity of the past. Some folks have been tempted to return to the traditions, rituals, and familiarity of the past. I can't get that word out right. In what ways are we tempted to return to the old ways? Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good about the old ways. But we can't live in the old way. We can't go back there. We're here. We've got a generation of people that are different than any generation we've ever been around. Amen? And so the old way just isn't going to get it. And if we try to go back in the old ways, we're not going to win a new generation. But we can be tempted because it worked back then, right? We seen results back then. And so we're tempted to go back there. And at times, at what times are we tempted to return? When we see things aren't going the way we want them to go. When we see decline, when we see people missing, when we see the things that we're seeing today, a falling away. We're grasping for straws. Let's go back to the old ways. Let's do this. It worked back then. It'll work today. Not necessarily. And that can tempt us to go back to the old way. This pastor's not doing what the old pastor did. Let's take care of it some way. Let's figure out a way to get back to where we were. Amen? Come on, get with me here. Somewhere, we've got to reach a new generation. And being tempted to go back and do things the way we used to do it is not always going to work. And so the question is, what steps can we take to overcome this temptation? How can we keep away from being overcome by the temptation to go back and do the things that worked 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Any thoughts? Can I offer a couple suggestions? We need to seek out God's will because He knows what tomorrow holds. And we need to know who holds tomorrow. And we need to get on His agenda, not get Him on our agenda. And the best way to do that, folks, is prayer and fasting. And I would challenge us tonight to highly consider, start praying and fasting for God's will, what He wants us to do. We're coming into a new church year. We're coming into a new board. I asked each and every one of you in your nomination forms to check the box that says I've prayed about this and I believe this is what God really wants me to do. I wholeheartedly believe that if anything we do in the church, I don't care what it is, if it's not something that God has called us to do, we can get, in fact, I just heard on Caleb this past week that burnout is now in the, I don't know if it's actually in the book of psychology for a diagnosis of mental illnesses or whatever, but it is actually something that is considered by psychologists now as a symptom, and it happens a lot of times by being out of the will of God and doing things on our own strength, and not doing it because God has put us in that position. Because that's the only way. It's His power. It's His might. We can't do anything on our own. And so when we try to do it on our own, we end up sometimes spinning our wheels, and we're out of God's will, and it makes things difficult. But prayer and fasting and making sure that, if God has called me to it, He'll see me through it. Amen? And make sure it's in His will and we get on His agenda, not vice versa. Last question. How is salvation offered through Jesus Christ related to the idea of living a holy life? How is salvation offered through Jesus Christ related to the idea of living a holy life? They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. You and I cannot live a holy life outside of Jesus Christ. Salvation that is offered through Jesus Christ. At the moment I am saved, I begin a holy life. And to go on into entire sanctification and to continue to grow in our faith day in and day out and to be what God wants us to be, I cannot do in my own strength. It's only by the power of the Holy Spirit living in my life. Not only does He cleanse, but He gives power. He came in as cloven tongues and wind. The fiery tongue of fire is power. The wind is, or the fire is purity, cleansing. The wind is power. We've heard a bunch of tornadoes. They're powerful. I mean, they do a lot of damage. But wind is powerful. And what the Holy Spirit wants to do in your life and my life, at the moment we're saved, is begin to working in our hearts and our lives to keep us holy, to keep us blameless until the day of Jesus' coming again. And that's what He promises to do in our hearts and our life. Hope you got something out of tonight's lesson. Hebrews is a powerful book. I know we don't usually dig into Hebrews a lot. Not a whole lot of sermons you hear from Hebrews, but it's a powerful, powerful book. One of the evangelists done a scripture or a series of messages out of it down at camp one time, out of Hebrews chapter 1 and 2. And oh man, were they powerful, powerful messages. Good book. I'd recommend that if you're not reading anything in particular right now, go to Hebrews and start studying on it. It's a good book. Any thoughts or questions before we close tonight? Well, next time we'll turn to some choices that are not easy but must be made as we look at count the cost or discount the cost. And your scripture, if you want to look ahead, the scripture is going to be out of Luke chapter 14, verses 25 through 35. So if you want to write that down and take a look at that, we'll be looking at that the next time we get together. All right, well, let's close with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for your word today. We thank you for the opportunity we had just to gather in and to look at it, Lord. And what a powerful, powerful message you have, Lord. Us doing things over and over and over as a ritual isn't what saves us. It isn't what makes perfect in our lives. Only the blood of Jesus Christ shed on the cross of Calvary can make us the perfect man or woman that you want us to be at this moment in our lives, that we might be able to live a holy life. But it takes obedience. It takes sacrifice of our life. The scripture tells us, Paul tells us in Romans 12, 1 and 2, that I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercy of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is our reasonable act of worship. It's the least that we can do. And it tells us that we are not to be conformed to the things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds, that we might know the perfect will of God. And so, Father, let us and help us tonight to live our life pleasing to you in the power and the presence of the Holy Spirit. In Christ's name we pray. And everyone said, Amen. Amen. Shake hands with one another. You may be dismissed.